Well, this is it. This is January 1st. This is my promise to do a weekly, so there'll be 52. It's kind of my age. Vlogs about Martin Pariseau. Who is Martin Pariseau? Well, you know what I look forward to the most in 2023? Crying. I love crying. It feels good to cry. It makes me feel human to cry. It tells me who I really am because when I have emotions that make me cry, I have thoughts that are linked, and I can tell what these thoughts are. And it makes me very proud of who I am with the sentience and the sapience that I have. I was just watching again a haka, I think it's called, New Zealand culture when a son comes back at an airport, and it's touching. It's touching. It makes me cry. That's what families act like, and that's what communities can do with their culture. They could role model the family values with it, and it's not that I crave family that makes me cry here. It's just that and of course I do crave family, but I'm just touched, right? It doesn't take much to touch me because it's rare to see things like this. It's rare to see people make efforts to exercise publicly, transparently their family values, and for that, they must have excelled at them. They must have undergone some of their own personal development to not be family breakers, but family repairers. And so I look forward to crying in 2023, and it could be to partake in the concept of friendship or feeling valued for my skill sets, or being part of a family that I might meet or a community, and this is who I am, and this is what gives me strength. And these moments where I wouldn't be crying alone, I'd be, let's say, watching a movie with somebody or partaking in conversation with members of these communities or cultures of any ages on any subject, and when I could tell that they feel heard by me, which is a skill set that I'm very proud to have with my sapience and sentience, and I hear their genuine stories and they express their genuine selves with me, it'll be very touching. I mean, they might even allow me to do the same once in a while if they've developed such family values where they become good listeners and they learn who somebody really is. So Martin Pariseau, I mean, has become less and less known by people that have been aware of his existence, me, and my choices and my values and my consistent behaviors, my congruent behaviors for decades now. And they know me less and less because I'm outside of the norm. So their brains aren't wired to accept this, and they jump to conclusions quicker and quicker. And there are people that, operate with the image of who they think I was more than 40 years ago. And that was wrong. So can you imagine that it's impossible for them to catch up to the complexity of who I am as an Homo sapien? In part because they don't have the skill sets. They've become more and more on the spectrum of ego, and therefore self-centered, and therefore unable to accept the existence of somebody that is probably more complex than them, when their own thoughts and emotions, which are not that complex, they're automaton-like, are already overwhelming for them. So, when these little moments of humanity might happen in 2023, is I'll cry, and I'll cry remembering this was what I talked about the first weekly vlog of 2023. It's that I crave these moments that social creatures that are normal Homo sapiens would crave. And very likely they will be with people I haven't met yet. They will very likely not be with people I already know. I was reading this again, and what made me think to do this series now, where I am saying this is who Martin Pariseau is, the person that people did want to get to know, and maybe that's a little bit why I started using other titles that were in fact related to skill sets that I've proven online over the years that I have. And I wish I could have more proof to give you, either online or in person. But again, those doors are closed. I have to kind of force a few open once in a while, and it doesn't make people happy. But it's important that I demonstrate who I am and what I can do as a culture repair that wants to be of service. One of the things about this book and the similarities is that there is an approaching crash of a proto-civilization. And I say proto because in this future it's also a proto-civilization. It doesn't reflect that sentience and sapience has evolved any more than it did in the Foundation series or in movies where we're in the future with technology that has taken us to the stars. I mean, we still hadn't done the first type of technology development, the human thinking tools. We hadn't evolved ourselves or matured ourselves as a species to keep up with, the irresponsible use of our opposable thumbs to create these technologies and to then be toxic to life in other places or to ourselves, but just on a larger number of worlds or orbital stations. So what it tells me is I have to, because I can't find any peers for my own theory of HSD. My theory that describes what has caused us to not only not continue to evolve, but actually devolve at an accelerating rate during my lifetime. And before, it was accelerating before, but it's very measurable now. It's measurable even at the physiological level, and it will be even at some point at the genetic level that is not that far off into the future. And it's related to a variety of human domestication syndromes. So I'll be applying again for PhD programs where maybe they'll be easy to get in the sense of the social sciences, but I will want to include a life science component to it to measure our brains, because I can already measure our brains with the behaviors that I've charted in the social systems, but I'd like to measure the actual physical, biological aspect of our brain and how we're devolving ourselves. Because for me, even though that's the most unpopular message and it won't make me feel less alone and less species alienation, for me it's at the root of everything that we may choose to work on that either will help a little bit for mitigation ventures. It won't fix things because it's too late, but it'll help for mitigation ventures if we care about the future, which is, at the root of the definition of sustainability, even if it's just related to our own offspring and their grandchildren and their grandchildren. So I need to work on mitigation ventures, and a lot of it starts with the admittance that our species has failed, and we can slow that failure down a little bit just to create scenarios to reduce hardships for our own kind in the future. But the best way to do that, again, was to incorporate an ecocentric worldview, because our own kind might stop fighting against each other, let's say. But if they continue to fight against the natural world that gives them life, it's idiotic as well. And again, it falls back to my theory, right? So I'm calling myself the professor of socio-cybernetics. My worldview, ecocentric, used to be humanism, was linked to that, but it's just ecocentric worldview now. No more humanism is possible. More than a year ago, I had enough data to confirm this. And the last thing is the concept of life skills, which is really the basic tools of social creatures, especially dangerous ones with opposable thumbs and technology like us, and false worldviews all over the place linked to magical paradigms and supernatural paradigms. But even scientific people, the best of us, have so much cognitive dissonance because of a mixture of incompatible realities in their worldviews, that if they don't address how much their brains are dysfunctional, not just their species, but them as individuals, then anything I might work on won't succeed. So now I'll be explaining these things in a different way, and I'll be doing what in this book I had the idea to do, is because I have no scientific peers, nobody has the courage, let's say, or even the schemas to address this, is I'll have to challenge my own theory. I'll have to be the one on the other side at the thesis defense table, let's say, and say, explain this, prove this, and challenge this. So pretend you're in the role of the person that is accepting your public debate, Martin, and do something about that.